your socks! Hey!
The Lost Art with Andrew Cox podcast. Marine Corps League and Till Valhalla Project Ambassador. Now streaming on all major podcast platforms. Thanks for tuning in to the podcast that's given a voice to our veterans. The Lost Art with Andrew Cox. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Lost Art Podcast, that podcast giving a voice to our veterans. I'm your host, Andrew Cox, and today we're having a fireside chat with some special guests. Well, we'll get to that in just a minute. If you're enjoying the podcast, make sure you go to our website. That's thelostart.podbean.com. Go check us out, see what we're all about. If there's any way you can help us in getting our veteran voices out for all to hear, it would be much appreciated. And to the Till Valhalla Project, if you don't know anything about them, you need to go check them out. That's tillvalhallaproject.com. And also, Marines, there is a place for you even after you get out. It's called the Marine Corps League. They're trying to get their numbers up. So if you're a Marine out there, go ahead, look up your local chapter and see if you can become a member. Are you a Marine veteran? Are you missing that bond you had on active duty? Then I have a place for you. Join the only congressionally chartered Marine Corps Veteran Service Organization, the Marine Corps League. Get that brother and sisterhood back in your life. Become one of the fewer, the prouder, a Marine Corps League member. Become a member. All right. With that, we'll go ahead. I got some of the crew here, and then we'll go round robin. We'll start with Mark. How you doing?
I'm doing outstanding, Andrew. It's a beautiful day here in Southern California. I think President Trump put the heat on old scamming Gavin Newsom and that LA mayor that. So I'm just looking forward to what else is next with Mr. Trump.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things happening, that's for sure.
You know, what I love it is he's throwing so much out there all at once that the press can't even latch onto something and try to denigrate it because there's just one story after the next. They don't know what to concentrate on.
I can't even keep up. That's for sure. He's moving quick. You know, for a fairly old man, I don't know how he moves so quick. That's all right.
That's what I was just listening to. That Sebastian Gorka. He was saying the same thing. He says, "I don't know how this guy does it." He says, "He's just like nonstop."
Yeah.
Texting me.
Oh, somebody's texting me. All right, Mike, how you doing?
I'm good. I don't know what's going on with my Zoom here. All of a sudden, like it updated or something. So nothing's where it used to be. So I'm trying to unmute. And
you're going to accidentally hit the end button.
Yeah. But no, it's been a week, that's for sure. But other than that, I'm doing good.
Good.
Yeah, everybody's healthy. So
yeah. Well, you had a little bit of a scare.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're doing good though now, right?
As of now, yeah.
Okay, good.
As far as that goes, yes. But there's, you know how life is. Life always throws something else and throws another wrench in the system. So there's always something,
true
no matter what you try to do. So
that is true.
So one day at a time, 1 foot ahead.
Yeah. Speaking of life throwing wrenches at you, you know, we have a couple of special guests on here. We have Jennifer and Jessica. They actually do equine therapy in Pennsylvania, York, Pennsylvania, to be exact. So Jennifer, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Just the weather this week has been a lot better than the weather last week. So for people that work outside like we do, I'm sure Jess could say the same, that we're feeling a lot better this week about it being, you know, above freezing.
Yeah, I can understand that. There's no fun out in the cold, that's for sure. Hopefully you're bundled up nice and warm, keeping the horses nice and warm.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's possible, but
they get double blanketed, so I
Okay.
guess they're as warm as they're gonna get. That's as many layers as they wear.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good. Sounds good. Jessica, how are you doing?
I'm good. Like Jen said, kind of enjoying the heat wave that we're having this week in the last few days. Um, Looking forward to Monday. It's supposed to be 55, so I'll take it.
Woo.
Nice. You said heat wave. What is the temperature there now?
Um,
Like 40 maybe.
Yeah.
I'll take
yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Compared to
buddy.
last week and it was single digits. We'll take 40
Oof.
any day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can understand heat wave at that point. Yeah, it makes sense. Well, hey, why don't you guys kind of tell us a little bit about what you guys do and what you guys got going on up there?
Do you want to start, Jess, or you want me to start?
I can start.
Sure.
So Jen and I run an equine assisted psychotherapy program. Um, we the bulk of our caseload are veterans. And we work with a herd of 5 horses to offer mental health services that look a little different. So instead of sitting and talking to someone about what's going on with you, we spend time with the herd. And our clients kind of get to, through observation, through relationships, get to have conversations about the herd that ultimately kind of circle back to whatever's going on with them. So it makes it a lot more comfortable than, talking about the things you're struggling with. We always work in a team. So it's always the 2 of us together. I'm an equine specialist, so I am like the translator between horse and human. So my specialty is equine behavior. So I'm there to keep everyone safe, but to also translate what the horses are actually saying or feeling or expressing in the sessions. And
Right.
Jen is my partner, and she's a mental health professional.
Yeah. So I'm a licensed clinical social worker. And so the thing that I think is like super important in what we do is that it is a mental health service. So we function like any other mental health service with a treatment plan, which we work with our clients to generate that. And then we utilize the horses in just an untraditional way where the horses have a lot of choice in what they're doing in the session. So we do a lot of at liberty work, meaning that they don't have ropes or halters. They can move about the space that we're in and they can participate or not participate, which I think for the veteran community, the opportunity to have choice, but also to participate or not is huge. And we've really seen that the veterans that come through our program, they've tried every mental health service that's out there. And it seems that the non-traditional therapies are now starting to become more prevalent in what they're looking for. And so this is like a really unique and different way to experience therapy. And we always talk about that we could do the same thing for 8 hours a day with 8 different people and have 8 different results of what the herd puts out there for our people. So it's cool to have a partner that we work with, but also we have 5 other partners that are with us most of the day as well.
Yeah. So when you're doing a therapy session, the horses are just kind of in a pen, and everybody else is just kind of walking around interacting with them. How does that work?
Yeah, so I think like we do a lot of we kind of base our thing off of 4 different kind of ways you could look at this. We do a lot of observing. So we spend a lot of time sitting back and kind of observing what the herd's doing or not doing. And ultimately then kind of what Jess said, people are then talking about it. And when we talk about something that we're watching, we're putting our own perspective on it and our own labels. And usually those labels and those metaphors or what we're seeing is traditionally something that we've experienced. So they're kind of projecting a little bit of what they're seeing and putting it out there in the herd. So we do a lot of observing. We do a lot of relational stuff. So whether that's connecting individually with a horse or connecting with 2 of the horses or observing the 2 horses connecting together. We do a lot of creating. So we have a lot of weird non-traditional things in our space, like pool noodles and hula hoops, bowling pins, things that make sound, for 10 other horses. So we have all people just give us stuff and we just keep all of these things, and people use that to create maybe what's happening for them. With a lot of our veterans, I think we use it to take maybe what's like going on in our brain and like place it into something that's out in the arena that then the horses can interact with.
Right.
So we have move, observe, create. Oh, move. That's the last one. So we may ask somebody to take a horse from point A to point B, and then how do they get there? Or we may have set up some sort of obstacle and have them work the horse through that obstacle. And usually the horse will approach that obstacle how the human would approach that obstacle in real life, which is kind of crazy to think about that a horse is going to do that. But we call it horse magic, but there's an element of, that the horses are really, again, then the people are labeling what they see. So it kind of comes full circle. And we're all in that space, and it's nice because we get to be outside, or we get to be in an outside like space, and then our veterans are outside and they're moving. And there's so many benefits to just being outside in general.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
So with the horses themselves, now I've never done equine therapy or anything like that. I've talked to individuals that have, and they say that the horse kind of takes on the same temperament, right, of the person that's there. So how does that work, and how do you navigate that during the therapy session?
So horses have this just innate ability to know emotionally what's going on with somebody. Even if they're wearing a mask and they tell us everything's fine that day, the horse knows, they sense it. What they end up doing is ultimately mirroring back to the person what's going on with them. So if I'm incredibly anxious, but I'm just doing a great job of hiding it, the horse is going to come and exhibit behaviors that show maybe anxiousness.
Wow.
And then in the work that we do, our client might say like something's going on with Aria. She looks anxious, and we'll be like, well, what is she doing that, is looking like anxious? And it just facilitates a conversation. But in that, it's almost like a neurofeedback loop. So the horse is kind of calling them out a little bit. And in that moment, they have to process and change their behavior, change their thought patterns, so that then they can continue to build the relationship with the horse. So that's very different than, I don't know, working with other animals. Horses are prey animals and we're predators. So it's a very different relationship than like human and dog. Because of that. So they're naturally hypervigilant beings, which I feel like a lot of our veterans can relate to, like living in that state of hypervigilance all the time. They have a fight, flight, freeze response, just like we do. They have a lot of the same emotions that we do. So there's a lot that's very similar that allows us to observe them, interact with them, the things we're talking about, and give the person so much back to reflect on and to think about.
Yeah. I like how you put that, as veterans, we do a pretty good job of hiding our emotions. But the horse is not going to let you hide that emotion. He's going to let you know what you're actually feeling, which that's really cool. Maybe not so cool for somebody that's hiding that emotion, but but it's cool that the horse can sense it, right?
Somehow they know, and they always play it out in a strangely accurate way that we can't explain. We've seen some weird stuff. So
really, give us an example of some things that you've seen that is just kind of out of the norm. Oh man, I put you on the spot here.
I think even just having individuals who have no experience with horses, right? And then we hand them like a rope and we tell them to go walk this horse from one side of the arena or like through a bunch of obstacles, and they're like, they'll like take the rope, and they're like super, super rigid. And then
Yeah.
as they're walking, like you can hear them like start to like have a conversation with this horse, and their whole body just relaxes.
Oh, wow.
And then as they're relaxing, it's pretty in tune that the horse then will just let out this big breath, and then they'll come back
Wow.
around to us and they'll be like, can I go again? And we're like, if you want to come and walk all day long with this horse and tell this horse all these things. And I think some of the times when we ask what it's like for them, it's a really emotional response
Yeah.
because you're now walking this, 1,200-pound animal, and you're doing it together, and you're
Mhm.
like part of a team. And I think, being in the military, you're all very familiar with being part of a team or being part
Right.
of a group, and our horses are part of a herd, and that's their, that's who they would go to bat for. They got their backs. They like,
Yeah.
there's a lot
Yeah,
of,
that's their safety. Yeah.
I'll have a
yeah,
rank in
and
the herd.
they
So
they'll stand head to tail, and they'll just have each other's sixes, and allow for the others to just be horses in that moment. So I think there's
Yeah.
a lot of things that um it's cool to see as a provider or as a therapist, right? That you have somebody who comes to us and they're like, I'm not talking about anything. And we're like, okay. And then um they're out there, and you can just see them get really like, they connect with that animal, and then they're
Yeah.
coming back to see that animal. They don't come back to see Jess and I. They're there because they want to hang out with the horses. And I mean, we've seen big Marines crawl on the ground to like give a treat to a tiny horse, and like who are yes mamming us, and then they see these horses, and they're just, they can be normal humans, and they
Yeah.
can just share that experience with that horse. So I think there's a lot of things that we could never predict would happen, because we could go in with what we would like to do with that person, and that horse might look at that person and be like, yeah, what you want to do is not what I want to do, but I got what I'm going to do. And
Yeah.
we truly let them lead. And that's
Hmm.
where I think the magic happens, is like letting go that control as the human, and letting the horses do the work.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a hard thing to do, is let go of the control.
We hear
Uh,
that often.
yeah.
yes, we do.
And
Yeah.
that's
We all like to be in control. That's for sure.
Yeah,
that's one thing I was
it's
gonna
hard to control a 1,200-pound animal. So
and that's
True
what I was
statement.
gonna say is, I mean, like me, I didn't grow up around horses. I never been on a horse till last year. And my wife looked at me and she was like, "You've never ridden a horse?" I was like, "I'm not saying in your therapy that they ride them, but I had been around horses, but I'd never been at a point where I could actually have any, other than rubbing their soft noses or something like that. But it's an extremely intimidating thing
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
when you have an
Mm-hmm.
animal that size, and then to actually give in. And it's like, okay. And I completely understand what you're saying. Talking to him, it's like, all right, we're in this together. All right,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
that's how I played it in my head while you were talking about it. It's like, all right, we're in this together. Don't hurt me, and I promise you, I'm not going to do anything. Just you know, but the other side of it, when you think about it, it's at that point, it's not about you. It gives that veteran the opportunity to be like, all right, this isn't about me. There's a bigger picture here,
Mm-hmm. And I think,
and
yeah, we don't ride, so there's no
yeah,
we always say like all of our feet are hopefully all on the ground at all
yeah,
times, that um that connection, and
yeah,
that that ability to connect with something that's maybe more intimidating,
yeah,
or was at one point scary. We've had veterans who are terrified of horses come,
hmm
and at the
Wow.
end, and like by the time that they're done, they're like touching their soft little noses and like snuggling up against them.
Yeah.
So
It's
it's
just
not.
that ability to be able to give in. It's,
Mhm.
you know, this is bigger than me. You know, it's to be vulnerable is what it comes down to. That's
That is
exactly what it
it.
comes down to.
Mm.
And right, a lot of the veterans we see are diagnosed with PTSD, and that opportunity to trust and to be vulnerable and to like allow connection to happen. So you like really hit that nail on the head, Mike, with vulnerability is the key here. And to be vulnerable with something other than a person, that maybe is sometimes easier than to sit down in a therapy office and have to be vulnerable with another adult.
But
Yeah,
that's one
I've
thing
had.
I'll say is I actually think it's harder to be vulnerable with another human being than it is.
Mhm.
You know,
Absolutely,
unfortunately,
yeah.
that's a terrible thing to say, but
But
you
I think
know,
it's true.
most humans will sit there and
Mhm.
you're trying to be vulnerable, but in the same sense, you're like, okay, they're judging me.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's just natural instinct for that animal to look at you and it's like, it's just you and me. Let's go. You know, it's like, all right, you know, I don't have to overly explain and you're not asking me questions. So, you
He's
know,
got it.
what can we do at that point, you know?
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think Jess talks a lot about when we're talking about horse behavior, like they don't have the ability to judge. That's not in their
Mm.
nature and in their character. And what a refreshing thing to hear that like you can tell that horse whatever you want it to tell you, and it's just gonna look at you and it's
Yeah.
gonna listen. And it will, and there's research out there that they can respond to that. So like they may not know the words that we're saying, but
Right.
they can recognize tone and they can recognize like our facial features. So
Oh, yeah.
that's really cool.
Mhm.
Wow. Yeah, yeah. That whole talking to a therapist, I've had my fair share of sitting down in front of a therapist, and it takes a hot minute to get comfortable enough to be able to talk to a therapist, at least in
Mhm.
my experience. But how do you see, like, if you have a new veteran that shows up, how quickly can those veterans kind of start opening up a little bit?
Ooh.
Is it
Depends
like
on
in
the
a one
person.
session thing, several sessions?
I wouldn't,
Yeah.
so I think it depends, right? Like
Yeah.
Mhm.
we don't, when we have our veterans come in and they meet with Jess and I, we don't really press
How are you?
for
Hi.
what's happened to them. Like their story is their story,
Yeah.
but we don't need to know that because the horse is going to do the work. So we might not ever know why somebody comes to see us, but we may know, okay, they have PTSD. So sometimes it takes
Sorry.
27 sessions.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes 5 sessions to really start to get into it. I think it's just a matter of, for that individual, do they feel comfortable?
Right.
Do they feel safe? Like exactly all the things
Mhm.
that the horses need, safety, connection, like all of those
Mhm.
different pieces. If the horse can give that to the person, then maybe the person then is able to open up.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
I think we
And
see
yeah,
even
go
in
ahead.
those people that like it's taking a while for them to open up, they're still giving us feedback that, they come, they've had a stressful day, they're anxious, whatever it may be. But by the end of the session, even if we're not doing a lot of talking, we're just spending time with the herd,
You can also do that with
um,
water.
that they feel calmer. Like they can't explain it, but they're calmer and they just feel better and they feel lighter. And we talk a lot about horses are naturally mindful beings. Like they can only live in the present. They can't, stress about the future. They can't dwell on the past. And one thing they require of us when we spend time with them is that we're present with them. So they will kind of check you if you're not being present. So if you're in a session and you get stuck in your head, they're going to check in with you and be like, hey, are you here with me? Let's be present. So I think even in that piece, the break that your brain gets by just being present and allowing everything else to kind of stop for a while allows people then to like be like, okay, there's something happening here for me.
Hmm.
And then they start to kind of open up and let
Yeah.
the walls down and start to facilitate some conversations.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's a pretty wild thing to, and you're right in how animals, well, horses, I haven't been around horses a whole lot, but animals in general can sense, sense the different things within the person and can kind of help change their attitudes as or their emotions or what have you as you're going along. So what are some some of the positive things that you guys are seeing from the veteran community as they're coming through?
Well, I think so. We run a PTSD group at least one time a year that has an
Oh, nice.
evidence-based curriculum. And so it's a curriculum that's been researched and utilized, and they've found that it reduces PTSD symptoms. And so we've run that group 5 or 6 times since we've started.
Mhm.
And I would say that every person that goes through that group has had a reduction in their PTSD symptoms,
Nice.
has then started either with us doing individual therapy or from that continued with therapy.
Right.
And so they're benefiting from that. And the really cool thing that Jess and I like about this program that we use for that is there's research. So we do like before and after surveys, and all of that goes back to the Man of War Project and Wounded Warrior to have them have additional research based upon what we're doing to hopefully allow in the future for insurance to cover equine assisted psychotherapy as a form of regular types of
Right.
therapy.
Yeah. Can you hold on just a second? Hey, Mark, can you hear me?
I can.
Hey, can you put it on mute? We're getting a lot of
sure.
feedback there. Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. Sorry
I
about
think
that.
I can figure it out.
There you go.
There it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Jennifer. You can continue.
Yeah, so I think so using that specific curriculum, there's data, right? And then there's things that then we can give back to the community of like providing research. So I think that is a really positive thing that we've been able to get to do. Do you have something else that you think, Jess?
I don't think so. I mean, we're just working really hard because equine therapies, whatever they are, equine activities are not insurance covered.
Oh, wow.
Yes, in some states they are, but most states they aren't. It's important to us to be able to give back where we can so that there is more evidence-based research and like eventually making these therapies more accessible to everybody.
Right.
We're blessed to have amazing grant writers and amazing support from our community that we can have the funds to make these services free for the veterans in our community. And
Very
that's
nice.
been really important for us because we know how much the work can change lives.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
so you're saying there's no I guess the government is not helping pay for the therapy for these veterans that are going in.
It's a really gray area.
Yeah.
So like and it's a very like debated topic on can you count that as a traditional in-office setting? And do people say that their office is the barn? Do insurance companies recognize that? So
Right.
there's a lot of like red tape. And so I think for what we do and the fact that we do have these really great relationships with our local Veterans Affairs Department and some veteran outreach programs that we have and Wounded Warrior Project through
Right.
some of the stuff that we do that, in order to make sure that we can see these individuals without any like breaks in service because their insurance is then saying like, yes, this week you can have this therapy, but nope, next week
Right.
it's not covered. that we just
And that happens a
utilize.
lot, actually.
Yeah, and we just utilize
Mhm.
the funding that we have, and again, our organization's wonderful at like helping us fundraise and helping us have a lot of different opportunities to pull money from different things for some of these veterans. And then we even get the
Mhm.
veterans
Yeah. So
to a place where they'll like contribute back into that. So they'll either start paying for portions of their sessions, or we have veterans who are in motorcycle clubs who will
mhm.
do fundraisers and then donate money to the
Nice.
organization. So there's clearly value in that to them when you're starting to either fundraise yourself or
Right.
give back through paying for a portion of the therapy. And it can be as little as $5.
Mhm.
That's $5 that could go to somebody else who then we can see.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, what is it that we as a veteran community can do to help, I guess, normalize this and get it where it can actually be funded through like TRICARE or what have you? What do we have to do to make that
Oh,
happen?
um, I guess it would have to start with the VA, right? And I'll go
Yeah.
like, and so I do think the VA will refer to our equine group because it's an
Mhm.
evidence-based program. And so
Nice.
being a government organization, they want to see that we're using evidence-based work, which would be like
Right.
any other type of therapy that they know that EMDR or EDMR works with veterans. They know that
Mhm.
cognitive behavioral therapy works with veterans. So I think they would want to see, continued research in that area, which research is happening. And I think on the West Coast, so
Mhm.
probably like out in Washington, because we got trained out in Washington State. Like that is a
Oh, okay.
normal type of therapy to go do. Like going out to a farm and having equine assisted psychotherapy is normal. On the East
Mm.
Mhm.
Coast, it is not normal to
And
go out
that's
and
and that's actually something, Andrew, we had talked about, on the fireside chats with you. And that was actually an article I brought up one time was
Yeah.
equine therapy. And I want to say it was in Washington State is
Mhm.
where it was based. My
Yeah.
son lives in Bellingham, Washington,
Oh wow.
above, and his girlfriend is out there too. He went out there to play college hockey and graduated, and but he, and that's where I'd found the article. And it's amazing how the mindset is completely different from
Mhm.
East Coast to West Coast, and
Oh,
in
yeah.
some ways is good, some ways bad. I'm not
Mhm.
getting into that aspect of it, but it's amazing how they're willing to be more open to that exact thing. It's like, okay, it works. I mean, we can show you that it works, but
Mhm.
Yeah.
then you go to the East Coast and it's like, yeah, not so much. That's some hocus
Yep.
pocus witchcraft stuff you're talking about. It's like,
Hocus pocus
no, there's
witchcraft.
no way. There's no way a horse is gonna. It's like, well,
Mhm.
you see it with service animals and different things like that. I mean, why not? If it works, I mean, even in the VA and the military and with veterans with PTSD and that, there's been a push, and I'm not somebody that ever done it, but like medicinal marijuana and stuff like that. Why is it proven that it could be beneficial, but we continue to fight it?
Mhm.
And
Well, you would,
I'm not classifying equine therapy, and that's not what I'm doing at all. But my
but you
point
would
is
think that it would be easier to do to get equine therapy approved than it would be the marijuana aspect. Because I mean,
yes,
how many years has the military said no to drugs?
exactly,
Period.
yeah,
Doesn't matter.
it's like
But I
Yeah,
I
don't
don't
think they've said
understand.
no to horses. I mean, correct me if I'm
there
wrong,
are
but
some
there's
like VA programs that like the inpatient hospitalization, from what we've heard from some of
yeah.
our individuals who have gone through some of those things, that there is opportunity to go out to a farm and go and
Oh,
do
really?
equine assisted activities while they're in an inpatient setting. So it's not being talked about, right? So
Yeah.
it's just something that's not maybe talked about enough.
Yeah.
I
I agree.
think and we talk about this at work a lot, that the trend for non-traditional therapies is happening. And so the traditional work of going to an office is not for everybody. And so, we've seen a real big movement in yoga, in
Oh
meditation,
yeah.
in sound healing, in
Hmm.
Reiki, and
What is
like
it?
all
The
of
the needles and stuff like that
in
Acupuncture.
from
yeah.
the
So
Mhm.
we've seen, right, the trend. Those are things that um people are utilizing and recognizing there's a benefit for experiential therapies, like
hmm.
nature-based therapies are a
Oh yeah.
thing. We have organizations that are in our network for our veterans. Like a veteran could literally go do any type of therapy. They could go catch fish, they could go hiking, they
Hmm.
can go spend 4 days out in the PA Grand Canyon and do all these other things. So like the trend is hopefully leaning in the direction of the non-traditional therapies. I do think what's worked for us is word of mouth and being open to trying this new therapy, right? So
Yeah.
when something new enters the scene, people are always like, I don't know, that's new, change is bad, right? So I think
Yeah. And
having
the government is always the last one to actually change. They
yeah.
will hold on to something as long as they possibly can.
And I mean, I understand new things, like you want to have a reason of why that works or why that could be beneficial. So having, had an experience with horses.
Mm,
So, Mike, you said you rode and you benefited just from that, interaction with a horse, which, you know, if we can give somebody just like a taste of what we do, we're always inviting people out to understand what we do by experiencing it and then being
yeah.
able to say, hey, this worked for me. It could be something that could work for you. Um, so I think having the opportunity to have some form of equine assisted activity to be able to
Hmm.
then see the benefit of horses, and not even maybe the mental health therapy part. There's so many other equine assisted activities that are out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also think, like, to go off your question, um, educating people on, like, not just going to any farm, like making sure the programs you're going
Mm,
to have truly credentialed, licensed, trained people, and they're not just like,
yeah.
hey, come out with my horses. Not saying that couldn't be a therapeutic experience, but it's not
Yeah,
therapy.
absolutely. It could be. Yeah.
Without like a truly licensed mental health professional there, it's not therapy. So
Yeah.
I think that's another really important piece to the puzzle.
Yeah,
So,
you wouldn't go to we use this analogy a lot. Like you wouldn't go if you had cancer to your cardiologist and be like, you probably could help me. Like
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
would go
good
find
analogy.
somebody who that's their specialty. And so
Right.
like as a social worker, I had to do a lot to get my clinical license and had to go
Hmm.
through a lot of school and training and hours and take 2 tests and all these things of like you want to see somebody who is actually understanding your mental health and can actually
Right.
support your mental health and not just say, oh yeah, well we have these horses and that could be fun for you. So
So,
I
do you think that there are, I hate to say it this way, and I apologize, but do you think there are organizations that are doing this, but not doing it to the extent of what you're just saying, right? Going and getting the certifications and all
there
these other
are
things.
Yep.
yeah, to be honest, there
They're
are
all
people.
Okay.
over.
And I
Really?
think, right, people hear or they know that horses can be therapeutic, and then you're like, well,
Right.
I have a horse, so my horse must be therapeutic. And like, not all horses want to do this job, and not like
That's
it's a
true.
hard job for a horse. Like, imagine having to take on people's emotions for 8 to 10 hours a
Hours a day.
day. And they all have a lot of different emotions. So
Oh
like
yeah.
like you want horses that can handle that work, but
Hmm.
also like again going back to that analogy, like you as a person want somebody who can manage what's happening for you in the appropriate
Right.
way.
And that's not
Now,
even something I even thought about. I'm sorry, Andrew. I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, you're
Is
good.
the burden that is being put on them. I mean, the animals. I never even thought about that. That, you know, I know one thing as a human being, if you have to accept that burden or somebody else's trauma and listen to them, or you know, try to break down that barrier so that you can actually understand. I never even thought about that with an animal.
Yeah.
I've
I mean, just
never,
like us, they have good days, they have bad days.
Yeah.
We know our herd well enough that we can tell, like, if they just had a really hard session with somebody, like, all right, you need to just go chill and be a horse for a little while before you come back in and work. Like,
well,
Yeah.
it's sad to think when you saying that like that right now, it actually hurts my feelings. I'm like, God
Oh.
damn, excuse my language, just like that. I was like, man, I just dumped all that on this horse, you know.
Well,
But
I
If
think
they
you know,
didn't,
he or
if
she
they didn't
took
want to
it,
be
and
part of it, though, they wouldn't. Like,
it's
because
They'd
the
leave.
horses are at liberty, it's their choice.
yeah.
So, like,
And
if
I
they
think,
were like, "Whoa, this is too much for me, I'm
Yeah.
out." You know what I
and
mean?
like,
So,
truthfully, we've seen that. We've seen horses that have had a hard session that in the next session they're like, I'm gonna go eat hay. Like,
Yeah. I'm
I'm gonna go
emotionally
eat.
drained.
And
Yeah.
and I think the thing to note is that because we know our herd, we spend 25 hours of the week with these 5
Mhm.
horses. So
Wow.
like we know them really well of that. It's
Mhm.
important for us that, you know,
You have to
they
worry
get
about
to,
their mental health too.
yeah, they go, we make
do.
sure
Like,
if
exactly.
the
do.
weather is good, they're
Yeah.
outside after work and
Yeah.
they're getting to be horses. They get, you know, massage, they get chiropractor,
Dang, they're
they
better
get
off than I
all,
am.
they get all of these things that, you know, we as humans should also be doing, right? Like
Yeah.
doing self-care. And so we make sure that they are getting that. But we also recognize that maybe there becomes a limit in what these
Mm,
guys can do. And the nice thing is then we will retire them from our program
yeah.
and we'll, or if they decide that we bring in a new horse and they're like, they say it's not for me, like we're not going to keep them in that environment. And I think, you know, that's where Jess's role as understanding the horse and having thousands and thousands of hours of watching horses, that's where I think that makes this
Yeah.
work. And so, and we joke that our horses are so sensitive to emotion that like if we have to leave our own crap out of what we're
Ooh.
coming into,
And they'll
because
call us out too in sessions. So, like, we also have to be
Wow.
real transparent with like each other. So, you know, if something's coming up for one of us, like, I'm gonna tell Jen, because if I don't tell Jen, the horses are gonna tell Jen that something's up with me today.
Wow.
and then at the end of the
So,
session, I'm going to say
yep.
to her, well, why was this horse over here doing this for the last 25 minutes? And so like our horses are sensitive to that, but that's what
Wow.
makes them really great at their job.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
incredible. And oh my God, y'all
Yeah,
can't
it's
get
just
away
like
with anything.
it's like a service, you know, like you have service dogs, I guess. I
Mhm.
mean, not every dog
Yeah.
can be.
Yeah.
They
Oh, yeah,
don't
that's
have
true.
that ability. I mean,
And I think that's
wow.
important too. Like people can't just say like, oh, I have this group of horses. They're therapy horses. Like maybe they're therapy for you as their owner, but that doesn't maybe make them therapy for people to come and do this work.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
dogs are, I love them and they're mine, but they're probably not going to help
Yeah.
other people.
Yeah.
They help me, but they're not helping other
Yeah.
people.
That's the way mine are. I'm fine. They're fine with me, and will sit and lay on me. And the ones particularly knows if I'm having a bad day, she just will not leave me alone. Yeah, I could even get in the shower and she'll be outside the shower, just it's like, come on, Dad, let's go, you know. But somebody walks in the house and she's like, all I want to do is just knock your tail over, just go away, you know. And you know, it's
Yeah.
amazing to think how animals have that, you know, especially family animals, but just
Mhm.
that special talent that they have the ability to absorb
Oh, yeah.
emotions and feelings, and
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
unbelievable.
So I got a question. Jess, you're the one that works with the horses primarily, but when you're looking at horses and being able to pick the ones that are going to be best for the job, right?
Mhm.
Is there a certain breed or a certain type of horse or anything like that is like,
Yeah.
hey, these are bred for emotional support?
I was going to ask
Great
that exact
question.
question, Andrew. I was hoping they were like,
And
they were like mini,
I
they were
was
like mini
curious
horses
if this
out there.
question was going to come up because I think that we get this question a
Um,
lot.
Yeah.
I
So
expect a little mini horses out there, and it's like, okay, come on.
so in
I
our
might be
herd of
able to
5,
handle
we
that.
do have some minis. We have 2 minis and we have 3 normal size horses. But
Okay.
I think in particular we have 2 categories that we really enjoy working with and have seen make maybe the biggest impact in the work. So the first population are rescue horses that have come from the slaughter pipeline.
Really?
Maybe, yeah. So maybe they've had a really rough life, or they were abused, or malnourished.
Wow.
So we have 4 rescue horses in our herd of 5.
So do you think, I'm sorry to interrupt, but do you think
No, you're
that
good.
because the trauma that they went through
Makes them
is what made
relatable.
them good? Yeah.
Makes them real
Wow.
relatable. And I mean, they all have their own crap, right? Like they have their own triggers, they have their own
Yeah.
preferences, and it makes them extremely relatable to the people we work with. We have this tiny little mini mule. He's one of our herd. And he is literally, because of whatever happened to him when he was young, he is literally the living manifestation of anxiety. So if you pulled anxiety out of someone's brain and put it out there, that would be him. And I mean, people see it and they're like, that's me. Like they relate to him.
That's funny.
And then they want to do everything to support him and make a connection with him and work with him. But in doing that, they're really addressing a lot of their own stuff.
Wow.
So that's one population we really find impactful. And the other one are off the track thoroughbreds.
Really?
So if you think of an off the track thoroughbred, they start when they're real young, right? They're like 2, they start training. All they do is train.
Yeah.
And then it's time to race. So it's train, perform or mission, train, perform, mission.
Yeah.
And when you're done or you're not good enough or something happens to you and you get injured, boop, you're done.
Out the door. Yeah.
And you need to go be a horse now. And you don't know how to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Because your life has been so regimented and you've just focused. And we find our combat veterans relate a lot to off the track thoroughbreds.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
That is 100% right, though. I mean, you have these horses that are like, this is my mission, right? And I'm going to run this race. And then all of a sudden, just like your veterans, they get thrown out into the civilian populace. And we're like, yeah, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to act.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, what is the norm, you know?
Yeah.
That's like even in the service dog, that's why greyhounds are especially popular as far as service animals, because you know they only do it a couple of years, but all of a sudden they're at a point where they're not useful anymore.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I actually know a close personal friend that, you know, unfortunately he just lost his greyhound he'd had for 7 years, but he's you know, he's in the process now with another, you know, a race greyhound. He's like, yeah, she's having to figure me out and I'm having to figure her out. You know, and they're just and that's one thing he said was, he's like, Mike, he said, it's like every day she teaches me something and every day I teach her something. He said, so it's this strange benefit, you know, it's, you know, we just feed off of each other. But I didn't realize it until he talked to me about that. And I never
I think that's a great point. Like the healing each other. So we actually talk about that a lot. Like our horses aren't just helping to heal the humans, but because of the past of our horses, all of our clients are helping to heal them as well. Like we've seen huge shifts in our horses in their own like recovery journey because of the work they do with the people.
And
that's amazing.
I would even say too, like we've had the opportunity to have horses that have disabilities be able to be a part of what we have 2 half blind horses in our herd. So like they maybe wouldn't have the opportunity to, you know, do anything else that
to feel anything or have compassion or just to be a
Mhm.
part of
Well, and like
something.
I think of great
Yeah.
adaptation of
Mhm.
like they've
Wow.
adapted to seeing out of one eye. And when, a lot of our individuals can relate to having some form of a disability or having something that's a barrier for them and that they had to adapt and they had to be able to adapt. So I think like that's probably a non-traditional way to utilize a horse that maybe wouldn't have a purpose outside
Wow.
of something, so they're able then people and one of ours went blind while they were with us, so he had full
Oh,
sight, and
wow.
then like we noticed that there was something happening for him, and it was kind of cool to be able to see that whole going from something having to adapt, and now that we've adapted, like we're back to what we were like before, which I think is a cool thing to be able to witness and see.
Well, that brings up a
Yeah.
question I have then. Then do you have veterans that come in that have had traumatic events like that, like loss of a limb or loss of eyesight or anything like that that you've had come in that can relate to that type of thing?
I don't think
The
we've had.
limbs. We've had some eyesight stuff or like loss of
Mm-hmm.
partial eyesight,
Yeah.
um, like TBI,
Mm-hmm.
some
And
other
some.
like physical issues. Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
And I mean,
That's
Hmm.
sometimes we
interesting.
don't share right away that they're blind,
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
right? Like,
Yeah.
it they just want to
Is it
be, and
necessary?
is it right? Is
Yeah.
it necessary? They just want to be treated, how everybody
Yeah.
else wants to be
Oh my
treated. So sometimes we
God.
won't share that information. We'll share it if there's like a safety concern.
Right.
Um, and
But in
then
the animal
sometimes,
world, I mean, that's how animals, and that's the sad thing is we as humans will sit there and complain and feel bad for ourselves and sorry for ourselves, but as humans, but in the animal world, they have to keep going. They don't have an option.
Yeah.
mhm.
And that's an
And
amazing thing to stop and think if you could put a veteran with somebody like that and
mhm.
actually see that they actually, it's like, okay, well,
Go on.
maybe I can make it.
Yeah.
Maybe I can. I mean, it stinks, but I can still be somebody. This doesn't define who I am at
Hmm.
Yeah.
that point. So,
Yeah.
Wow. I'm telling you, you guys have, and I've talked to people with equine therapy before. I've had people on. I don't think I've ever been this like impressed with it.
well,
But the way
that's how
you
I
guys are
feel,
saying
Andrew.
it, the way you guys are saying it is just incredible to me. And I think that this needs to be approved for the VA. The VA needs to look at this. I mean,
I
this is
mean, I'm not going to
incredible.
disagree, but
Yeah. I would love that.
I just hope that, hope one day that it does. I just think that
Yeah.
this creates a whole, maybe something that nobody ever thought of as a type
Mhm.
of way to get help. And I think
Hmm.
that that's the important piece of like, people can say there's not something out there for them for their mental health, but
Right.
there's got to be something out there. Again, going back to like, if you go fishing and that helps your mental health, or if you like to do meditation or draw or
Yeah, I know
listen to
one particular
music.
in person. His when he's having a bad day, he goes out and does woodworking. He just starts,
Hmm.
it's
Mhm.
who's to say that it isn't
Therapeutic,
beneficial?
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Anything can be therapeutic.
And
Yeah,
so I
So
think
absolutely.
like, I mean, we have people we've done, and in this journey of doing equine assisted psychotherapy, we've tried out some interesting other therapies like drumming and sound
Hmm.
healing and things that
Yeah.
maybe I would have never tried, and like maybe they're not my, I'm not, maybe I won't choose that, but they help
Yeah.
other people. So I think it's just that awareness that therapy doesn't have to be in an office.
Yeah.
Therapy
And
doesn't
Mike,
have to be
you,
on
yeah,
Zoom. It
yeah. It's
can
not some
yeah,
be,
little
yeah.
box. I mean, it can be so
Hmm.
much bigger than what.
it's
Like
just
you
about.
remember Scotty Hastings that we had on. I mean, he started playing guitar as therapy. Guy got, in Afghanistan, shot 10 times, like medically retired type of deal. And he started playing guitar. And now this dude is, he's got a recording
He's a
contract and all kinds of stuff.
country artist now.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
and that
Yeah. I
therapy
mean,
was with him. He had hand trauma, nerve damage, and
mm-hmm.
that was how he had. That was part of his therapy. He said, "I'm going to do
Yeah.
this," and He just
Yeah.
sat and did it every day to the point that he was like, he's like,
He
if you
was
would have
able to
told
play
me
and do it.
4 years ago or 2 years ago or whatever that I'd be able to, he said that was my therapy.
Yeah.
And,
I just
and
think
I-
that there's a lot of
that-
different ways to get help and to help yourself. And I think that
Absolutely.
that's, thinking, right, not keeping it all in this little box, and there are ways to try it. And if you don't like it, then somebody can recommend something else for you. And I think as a
Yeah.
veteran, veterans have a lot of opportunity to try all these things because
Mhm.
there's so much money and funding and grants and organizations and nonprofits that all focus on all of these different things for veterans, that like the ability to get what they need is out there.
Right.
And so I think it's education of like, if you want to do something, I know that our county probably has it because we have so many different opportunities, but that probably means that somewhere else out there does have that as well.
Right. Yeah.
that's
You
the
know,
key. That's the key is the problem is, and you guys have touched on, and Andrew harps on this nonstop, is as veterans, we have to be willing to want to go out and get that. I mean,
which is not
that-
an easy task.
that's
And
the
I'm gonna
hard
be
so
honest,
we
it's
know
not.
if a veteran calls us, we're calling you back within 48 hours, and we are
That's
setting up
awesome.
something
Awesome.
for you to come
Yeah.
in, because we know that if you're reaching out to us, you've reached maybe the
The
I don't have
boiling
anything.
point.
Yeah, I don't have
Yeah.
anything else, that I'm just trying this interesting horse therapy thing that I found a flyer
Yeah.
at the VA sitting
Yeah.
there on a desk, and that this is where I'm at. So I know that that's really important to us.
Yeah. And
As
correct me if I'm wrong, Jennifer. You both said you're veterans, right?
we're not.
No, you're not veterans. Okay.
Mm-mm.
Okay. And
No.
from the veterans that I've talked to over the years and everything, I've noticed that it is difficult sometimes to open up to somebody that's not a veteran. Now, do you guys find that is, I guess, find that that's the case? I mean,
That's why we
not-
have the horses.
Yeah. I do think like early
touche.
on, yes. But I
Mhm.
think like we've been doing this for a while now, and like
Yeah.
knowing that it's the bulk of our client load, I think helps maybe
We've also
balance that out a
done,
little bit. Like
we've
this
also
Nice.
has
done a
become our
lot of,
specialty.
yeah, we've
So-
done
Yeah.
a lot of trainings. We are pretty active in our
Yeah.
like our county's like veteran network that we have.
Nice.
So that way we're connected with that.
Mhm.
We've had a lot of meetings with our local like reserves,
Mhm.
Mhm.
all
That's
the
awesome.
things that we can talk to and
Mhm.
and engage with. So I think, now that our faces are probably connected with some of those things, it's a little bit easier
Right.
to be able to do that. But I do think at the beginning it was kind of like, okay, you guys are so how is this going to help me? How are you going to help me? But again, that word of mouth, right? We have people that
Yeah.
have discharged from our program and then can say like, hey, Jen and Jess like actually do know what they're talking about. They
Right.
can be relatable.
Mhm.
So again, that's important to us. But
Well,
I
you
think
talking?
the horses do the work. So like
Yeah.
we could know
Yeah.
nothing or we could know everything, but there again, the horses are why they're coming.
You're not selling yourself very well at this point. You're saying horses do all the work. I just sit in
They
the back.
do. We do work, but they are the reason why this works. They are,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be equine assisted psychotherapy. It would just be psychotherapy.
That's a good point. Good point. So I want to hit on something. You said word of mouth, right?
Mhm.
Which is a huge thing in the veteran community, or at least from my understanding of it. But I found out about both of you through somebody that I served with and said, hey, you need to reach out to these people. They know what they're talking about. It's a great program. I went to it. It's fantastic. So that's how I found out about both of you. So, the word of mouth thing, especially in the veteran community, is huge.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Do you guys find that a lot of your clients that come in is from word of mouth?
That or like somebody that then like if they're reaching out to our veteran network, they've then heard of us through them.
Right.
Or we've had some people within our community who work in the like local VA have come and like tried out therapy and like to
Right.
have experience and then be able to talk about it. So we've had, you know, multiple different ways, but I also think the connections that we make and kind of inviting people out again to the farm to be able to experience it and hear what we do. So I would say, yeah, a lot of it is, or like social media posts that
Right.
people put out there.
I mean, we have once a month, we have like a little open house that is open to veterans, that it's like, okay, like come out to the farm, check it out, you know, see what it's like. Kind of meet everybody, but without the pressure of like you're showing up to do therapy.
Yeah.
They get to come out, you know, sniff around a little bit and then be like, okay, like I can give this a try. This isn't so bad. So
Yeah. Test the waters, if you will.
We
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. Got to make sure that the waters is just warm enough, not too hot, not too
Yeah.
cold. Yeah. No, that makes sense to me, 100%. Now, do you have you work with your local VA?
We work with like our York County Veterans Affairs Department. We like connect people. We make sure that one, if we get a veteran referral, they're connected with our
Yeah.
local, so make sure that they're getting all the benefits that they need.
Right.
And making sure that they're connected with the VSO, and to be able to make sure that their benefits are where they should be at, or if they have no benefits, or if their veterans needs changed, or their percentage rating. So we kind of do this big loop of, we want to make sure that they know them, and so that way we can make sure that they're getting everything that may be
that's
important
awesome.
to them.
Yeah. That's great. We got to figure out some way to get this sanctioned, or whatever you want to call it. I don't even know what you call it. We got to get the VA on board with this thing, because everything I've seen with it, and from what you guys are saying, like fantastic. I would say brief, but it's not necessarily a brief. But you guys put it in a light that I think the VA can see, and it would make sense to them. It's just a matter of, how do we get you in front of the right people?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe
you
I'm
can
working
figure
on it.
that out. You let us know.
It's-
we
you gotta go.
call
I
it,
will.
when we're having somebody think about something, because horses do this whole lick and chew when they're thinking and processing. We always are telling our people, we'll let you lick and chew on that, and you can get back to us about what that's like. So
That was nice.
Yeah.
That was nice. I really like that. I'm gonna
can
lick and
use it.
chew on it, and then I'm gonna let you know.
Yeah.
There's got to be people in government in the great state of Pennsylvania, where I'll say the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, that would jump on board with this and push as
Yeah.
hard as they can.
You know that.
I mean, but it is who is that? I mean,
I don't know.
I'd have to do some digging. I don't know.
Yeah.
Now you had mentioned earlier there have been studies and everything, and that you were actually tracking a lot of your progress and things that you've got going on there. Do you have something that you could like present if somebody had it, you know, like stats and
I mean, we
things
have
of that
our
nature?
our in-house statistics, but the Man of War project is like, I'm sure if you Google it, it probably would come up, and it's
a nationally run
research.
project.
Yeah, it's research about I think Wounded Warrior like funds some of that, but it was
really?
out of, I'd have to look it back up. It's been a while since I've looked
we have a
at
resident Wounded Warrior Project individual here with us. Mark is our Wounded Warrior Project. He works for them.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah.
Maybe
Mark, have
Mark
you
has
heard of
heard
anything like that?
He's on mute.
He's on mute. He's like, you put me on mute. Dang
he's
it.
on my grandpa duty, and I'm trying to do multiple things. And
well, I'll find out from him later if all goes well. But
the one question I had, and I'm sorry, maybe
yeah, you're
it's
good.
already
Go
been.
ahead.
Okay, I'm here.
Go ahead, Mark.
I'm not aware of what Wounded Warrior Project does for these type of for this. I do not know.
Yeah. We can find out though.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right. Well, Jennifer, Jessica, we'll figure something out. I think this is a fantastic thing. And you guys, the way you put it, like I said, it's fantastic. I think you guys should be going in front of Congress and,
Thanks a lot.
briefing
Absolutely.
all
The
this stuff.
pressure.
Don't get
Well,
nervous. They put
No,
their pants on the same way
just be
you
as
do.
honest as you were right now. I mean, that's just,
Yeah.
We
I
do
mean,
enjoy
that's,
talking about what we do. So
We
I think
do.
that helps, is that we will talk to anybody about what we do because we truly believe in it. And so
Yeah.
that's helpful
so,
when you believe.
and like I said, I just listening to you. I think just like Mike said, it sounds, what you're doing. Um, Definitely people have helped. There was when I was a sergeant major of the Wounded Warrior Battalion there, we worked closely with the Semper Fi Fund, who had
Mhm.
the Jinx McCain program, which is a horsemanship program. But like the motto was, the best thing for the inside of a human being is the outside of a horse.
Mm, that's
That's
good.
good.
The one thing you're going to be up against trying to get the VA involved is the size of your operation.
Mm,
Just like you were saying, you need specialized horses. You just can't have any horse to do it,
yeah.
and things like that. So how scalable is it? Um,
Mm,
like Vic is always saying, okay, how come we can't start this in every state or
yeah.
every county?
Mhm.
So those are the things when you're going up for the VA sponsorship and funding, is how scalable and how how big can you make it? How many
Yeah.
can you really help?
Yeah, and I know, like, so who we have our like equine assisted psychotherapy certification through is a global certification. So there's
Mm.
individuals out there that have the same type of certification as the two of us, who are in South Africa, New Zealand,
Oh,
who
wow.
are in Canada. They're all over the world.
so do you have access to like, I don't know how to say it other than like a database, like throughout the United States where what you do is available? Or, I
Hmm.
mean,
Like where
is
all
there
it's
a,
available?
is there a
Yeah.
group where you guys all
Yeah.
communicate and talk and can share information?
Yeah,
Or,
so
I
we're
mean,
since we're a part of so we use what we were certified through was EGALA. So um they have a global network. It's just egala.org, and
What
they
is he gala real quick? Sorry. I'm putting you on the spot. I
Equine
apologize.
Assisted Growth and Learning
yeah.
Association. That's what it
Okay,
Us
is.
gotcha.
as Marines, we all like acronyms, so we have to find out what exactly that acronym means. So,
So in on their website, if you are certified through them, you can put your place of where you work on there. So then other people can go and look that up and find you.
Right
Which
on.
then, what Jess was saying at the beginning, it takes that now you're going to a legitimate place,
Right.
because it has this team model and there's somebody who's certified in it. So and you can look up, you know, who's out in Erie, who's out in California.
Right.
You can zoom in on where they are. It gives you kind of a description of, do they have a specialty?
Mm,
And so Igala does have a specialty that works. They call it a military designation. So you can work to get designated that you guys focus a lot on military. And then there's
mhm.
That's a
additional,
process.
yeah,
There's a
it's a
Yeah,
lot you
lot.
have to
sounds
go
like
through
it.
to get your military designation because they want you to be educated and
Hmm.
relatable and understand the culture.
And we're
Oh,
So they
like
yeah,
don't
that's
just give
true.
it out to anybody.
we're like 3/4 probably the way through of all of
Yeah.
that. So that's our goal,
You
is
said
to
you said you're 3/4 of the way through with that?
Yep.
yeah, it's a lot. Yeah. So
Yeah.
our
Okay.
goal is hopefully here within the next year to be able to apply for that. So then we can
Okay.
be a designated program. And there's some
Hmm.
additional funding that comes from that, Egala gets through various
Mm,
grants that they have. So
gotcha. Yeah.
that opens up a whole other opportunity and network of individuals. But so
Right.
um that those things are being recognized because they are using various veteran population or community aids to be able to fund these things throughout the entire country.
Right.
So on a big
That's really
scale
cool.
picture, yeah, that there's a lot of people who have that.
Well, hey,
So,
Jennifer, Jessica, I thank you guys for coming on. And is there anything that maybe we have not addressed that you guys want to address that my little pea brain couldn't think of?
I don't know. I think we covered a lot.
Yeah.
Covered a lot of the big stuff.
Yeah, Mike
I
looks
did
like he
have
had a
one quick question, Andrew.
Yeah, go ahead.
And you guys, Jennifer and Jessica, you may have already addressed it, and I just didn't hear it. My wife accuses me of not listening, so I apologize.
Been
But
there.
I mean, you guys said both of you are not veterans, so what has made you, the two of you, so passionate about this?
Good question,
I
Mike.
apologize if it's been answered.
That was
No, I'm
fantastic.
asking because it means a lot from what you guys talk about and what you're talking about and what you're doing. I'm not saying trying to do what you're already doing. It just, as a veteran, it means something when somebody actually takes an interest. So that's my question is.
Yeah, I think I can speak for Jen. Like we both have important veterans or military service members in our lives. And we saw the need within our community and it has just grown and grown from there. And I think the more we've done the work and the more we've seen the work change those veterans' lives, the more passionate we've become about what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I do think, and I'll speak for you too, in this of like the more that we're engaged with this population and the more that we spend time with this population, like it's probably the best time that we have out there with some of these individuals, watching them work through some of these hard things and then eventually not needing us or getting to a point where then they can go and do traditional therapy, which coming from somebody that's like, I'm not doing that at all, to then being like, I'm ready to go work the rest of this out in an office and then be able to move on. So I think we enjoy like just how much everybody gets out of what we do, and being a mental health provider, it is hard work, and it is not every day is wonderful and great, but
I don't know how you do it, Jennifer. Honestly, I won't lie to you.
This is why we work with horses now, because we've talked about like it coming from the like office setting, that's where I've spent up until the last 5 years, my whole career. Like I notice a difference in my ability to be able to manage all of these different emotions of people with the help of the horses. So like that, not only has it helped them, but I think and I know for Jess in doing this that like it's helped us as individuals as well. So I think the reason why we can continue to do what we're doing is probably because of these horses.
Yeah. Man, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I thank you for coming on and doing this. I'm really glad Charlie set us up and put me in contact with you. It's definitely some interesting things. We got to figure out some things on the way forward so you guys can get some better funding from the government on all this stuff. But thanks for what you do. Thanks for helping Charlie out and all the other veterans that are out there. I truly appreciate it. As we approach the end of the podcast here, I always like to do, when we're doing a fireside chat, words of wisdom. Okay. I'm going to shotgun you here like it's cool, because I like to do that to everybody. As Mike laughs maniacally over there. So what we'll do is we'll start with Mike, because there's only two of the crew here, but we're going to start with Mike, and he's going to kind of give you a taste of his words of wisdom here.
Okay.
And then I'm going to give you guys a choice after you hear him. Typically Mark brings up the end, right? Because Mark comes up with some humdingers of words of wisdom. So I want to give you guys the opportunity to decide, do you want to do words of wisdom before Mark or after Mark? But
Okay.
we'll let Mike go first so you kind of get an idea of what we're doing here. Does
Sure.
that sound good?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right, Mike. Floor is yours.
Oh yeah, you just threw me under the bus. I see how
You're
you
welcome.
are.
You're welcome.
That's what I'm good for. I see how you are, Andrew.
I'm here for you. This is your
No,
therapy.
it's not. It's. I'm trying to find it, but I'm trying to. I kind of sent it into my notes on my phone. I heard it the other day, but it says the best I can remember it is follow your instincts. They are typically true because sometimes your heart will fail you.
That is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good.
Ooh.
Did you go, Mike?
I just
Man.
said the same thing you
That's
said.
not by. That's not verbatim. There was a lot more to it than that, but it's just the
Yeah.
best I could. I'm trying to find it.
But it's why it's words of wisdom from you.
Gotcha.
That was
Yeah.
good. It was good.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it.
I don't think that we should go last, Jess.
I still don't know what I'm going to say, though. I haven't picked out my wisdom.
Okay, I'll let you guys pick. Who wants to go next?
Ooh.
Jennifer, Jessica, whichever one.
Man.
I mean, I
It
feel
doesn't
like,
have to be anything.
no, I feel like in
great, but-
order to have, and now probably I'm going to take a little bit from yours, Mike, in order to like heal yourself, you have to be vulnerable. And vulnerability is the only way to maybe seek something that you haven't sought out before.
Yeah.
That's good. That was good. I like it. Good job, Jennifer.
I agree
Yeah,
100% with you on that, and that's.
Yeah.
I'll add to that as far as a veteran, and that was one of my biggest issues. Is I would Dan and still don't allow myself to be vulnerable, and my wife, and that's one of the big things we have is a back and forth. And she's like, "Why, why wouldn't you communicate? Why didn't you talk to me?" And that's my biggest regret in life is not allowing myself to be vulnerable and not to communicate.
Well, then I'll piggyback off that with my wisdom.
Oh my gosh, here we go.
Uh-oh. Here we go.
So in the herd, clear is kind. So say what you need to say in a kind way, but say it. Allow yourself to be vulnerable. Horses don't sugarcoat it. They say what they need to say, they process it, and then they move on and go back to living in the present.
There you go.
Hey.
Find ways to live like a horse a little bit every day.
Uh-oh.
Live
Come
like
on,
a
Mark.
horse.
Bring it on, Mark.
Mark, you are in so much trouble this week. It's not even funny. I don't know. What do you got, Mark? You got anything?
Yeah. As everyone was expressing about being vulnerable, it takes being vulnerable to someone else, correct? And so that's where it comes to like friends, brothers in arms, comrades. So I'm going to go back to my Irish roots.
Okay.
An Irish saying, to be rich in friends is to be poor in nothing.
Ooh.
That
was a good one.
Dang, Mark bringing it up at the end. You haven't failed me yet, Mark. That's impressive.
And I will say, without getting in too much explanation, Mark, that actually hit the nail on the head for some things that's going on with my family right now.
Right.
To be rich in friends and actually people that you care about, people that would care about you.
Then you're actually poor in nothing.
Yep.
Dang.
But they're the people that you can always talk to.
That's right. Dang, Mark.
I need to go find a horse. I got to go out and hug a horse now.
I know. I need to hug a horse.
Damn horse. Give them maybe a tiny donkey or something. I mean, it's like, just let me have a
tiny donkey. Come here, donkey.
We do have a tiny donkey.
Yeah.
He's a mini mule. Yeah.
Oh my God. Don't tell my wife that. We'd be in trouble. We'd have to go see it.
Yeah, that's what.
Well, if you're ever in this part of Pennsylvania, we will be happy to give you a tour.
Yeah. I may take you up on that. I might. It's a possibility if I'm ever in that direction.
Sounds great.
Jennifer, Jessica, thank you guys for coming on. Thanks for sharing everything that you guys do. You are an inspiration, and I appreciate what you're doing for all the veterans out there. Not just the veterans, but everybody else as well. And I honestly think that you guys, the type of therapy you're doing should be compensated by the government somehow, some way. And we got to figure out a way to make that happen. So if anybody out there knows a way, hit us up. You never know.
Thank you
There
for
might be
having
somebody.
us.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you.
Well, if there's anything else that maybe we missed, you want to say before we call it quits here?
No, I think you covered it all. Thank you for
Yeah.
having us and letting us share what we
Mhm.
do and hearing
Yeah.
what you guys questions and maybe how horses have impacted you guys in a roundabout way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you
Yeah.
both for coming on. And I end every podcast with talking about veteran suicide. So to all the listeners out there, if you're struggling, need help, anything like that, don't forget the VA does have some great resources. You can always dial 988, press option 1. You can always text 838-255, or you can go to veteranscrisisline.net and click on the chat icon. Any of those options will put you in contact with somebody that can help you out. But remember, one veteran life lost is one too many. I care about you. Jennifer, Jessica, Mike, Mark, they all care about you. The whole veteran community cares about you. So please reach out for help. And if you're out there, you're not struggling, reach out to the buddies that you served with. Ask them how they're doing. And if they need that helping hand, please give it to them. All right, Jennifer, Jessica, thank you one last time. Mike, Mark, thanks for joining me again. And to all the listeners, stay motivated, change your socks.